Hey there, thanks for clicking in today. So let me tell you something I hear all the time in my practice. It's not the patient who says it, it's the person sitting next to them, the wife, the husband. The adult daughter or son, they look at me across my desk and they say, "Has just not acting like my dad anymore." And then the dad looks at me, he gives a little half smile and he says, "Doctor, I'm fine, everything's good. And here's the thing, Hez not lying. He truly, genuinely feels fine. And honestly, that's what breaks my heart the most. Hez not sad. He doesn't feel off. He doesn't feel confused. It's just that fire inside him, the one that used to burn bright, it went out quietly, slowly, without any drama, and he didn't even notice." Now, before we go any further, let me ask you something. Have you always thought that Alzheimer's disease or other dementias start with forgetting things? Losing your keys, not remembering a grandchild's name, getting lost on the way to the grocery store? If that's what you think, then today's video might completely flip your understanding upside down because I've learned something over the years. Seeing thousands of patients in my clinic, the earliest warning signs, the ones that show up first, have almost nothing to do with memory. They show up much, much earlier, sometimes 5 years earlier, sometimes 10, sometimes even 15 years earlier than any memory problem. And yet almost nobody takes them seriously. Why? Because they look exactly like normal aging. They don't scream dementia, they whisper. And most people just whisper back, "Oh, I'm just getting older." Today, I'm going to walk you through 5 specific signals, 5 signs that have nothing to do with forgetting where you put the remote. If you can recognize them, you are giving yourself or someone you truly love a real chance, not a chance to be terrified, a chance to choose, to plan, to talk to a doctor early, to do something while there's still time to do something. Please stay with me all the way to the end, especially number 5 in the medical world right now. That 5th sign is one of the strongest early warning signals we know of, but I'd say 9.5 out of 10 people have never even heard of it. All right, let's start somewhere you would never expect, your nose. Signal number 1, your nose. Let me ask you a very simple question. This morning, when you made your coffee or tea, did you actually smell it? That rich, warm smell that sort of wakes you up inside. What about when you walked past the breakfast place down the street? Could you smell the bacon, the toast, your neighbor's laundry vent? Can you still smell those things the way you used to? You might have to think about it for a second. That's okay. Don't panic. Here's what I want you to know first. Your sense of smell does naturally get a little softer as you get older. That's completely normal. On top of that, we just lived through a few years where millions of people lost their sense of smell from COVID. Some got it back. Some didn't. Some got it back partially. So there are lots of very common, very non-scary reasons your nose might not work like it used to. So let me be absolutely clear. Just because your sense of smell changes a little bit does not mean you have dementia. Please don't scare yourself. That's not why I'm telling you this. And this is a big but, there's something really important here that most people don't know. Smell isn't just about your nose. The nerves that carry smell signals from your nose up into your brain, they go on a direct highway, a straight shot. They go deep into your brain to a place called the entorhinal cortex. And right next door to that is your hippocampus. Now, you may have heard of the hippocampus before. Think of it as your brain's filing manager. Every new memory, every new face, every new name, every new thing you learn has to go through the hippocampus to get saved. And the entorhinal cortex, that's the hallway that leads straight to the manager's office. Here's what we know from decades of research. In Alzheimer's disease and other common dementias, the very first places to start having problems are that hallway and that manager's office before almost anything else. So what does that mean for you? It means that before your memory changes, sometimes years before, your ability to recognize and name smells often changes. Not necessarily can't smell anything at all, but you smell something and you can't quite name it. It's coffee, but you hesitate. It's cinnamon, but it doesn't come to you as fast as it used to. Researchers did a really clever study. They took common everyday smells, mint, coffee, floral, cinnamon, and had people smell them and name them out loud. And what did they find? The people who suddenly couldn't name those smells accurately, the ones who got slower and less accurate, were significantly more likely to develop cognitive problems over the next several years, compared to people whose noses were still sharp. This wasn't a small study. This came out of a major review by the National Institute on Aging, the NIA, which is part of the NIH. And around 2022, researchers at a major medical center in Beijing also published findings showing a clear, strong link between declining smell identification and the development of mild cognitive impairment. That's solid, peer-reviewed science. So here's my bottom line, friend. If you notice that your sense of smell has changed, not from a cold, not from COVID, not from allergies, and you can't explain it, just mention it to your doctor the next time you go in. Not because you have dementia, but because sometimes your nose knows something's going on in your brain before your brain does. There's an old saying, spring water warms up, and the duck is the first to know. Your nose is that duck. First signal, nothing to do with memory, right? Signal number two, your spark. All right, this one won't scare you, but I'll be honest, it might make your heart sink a little because chances are you've already seen this in someone you love, maybe your dad, maybe your mom, maybe your partner, maybe even yourself. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine someone you know, let's say they used to get up every morning at 6:30, put on their walking shoes and go to the park every single day, rain or shine. Now, they don't. They used to watch the evening news every night at 6:30. Now they say it doesn't matter. They used to make Thanksgiving dinner from scratch, the turkey, the stuffing, the pies, the whole thing. Now they just say, let's just order something. They used to call their old friends every week, play cards, go to lunch. Now they don't return texts, they don't pick up the phone. And here's the strangest part, they're not sad, they're not in pain, they didn't have a big fight with anyone, nothing traumatic happened, they just don't want to anymore. The desire is gone. In medicine, we have a word for this. It's called apathy. And I want to be really clear, apathy is not the same as depression because here's the heartbreaking difference. A person with depression knows they feel terrible, they feel the weight, they feel the sadness, they hurt. But a person with apathy, they feel fine, they don't feel sad, they don't feel empty, they just feel nothing. And they don't even know that anything is missing. Remember that dad I told you about at the very beginning, the one who looked at me and said, "Doctor, I'm fine." He wasn't lying. The fire inside him had gone out, but he couldn't feel the cold. He couldn't feel the absence. This kind of apathy, especially when it shows up later in life in someone who's never been like this before, is one of the most common early changes in both Alzheimer's disease and another type called frontotemporal dementia. Researchers have actually given this a name. They call it mild behavioral impairment, or MBI. And multiple large studies have found that older adults who develop this kind of apathy, losing interest, losing drive, losing motivation have a significantly higher risk of developing dementia down the road compared to people who don't. And you know what breaks my heart the most? It's always the family who notices first. They sit in my office and their eyes are red and they say the same thing over and over. Doctor is just not himself anymore. He used to be so engaged. He used to care. Now he just sits there. The body is still here, but it's like the person inside is gone, and the person they're talking about sitting right next to them, blank face, no reaction, no emotion. So let me say this as clearly and as kindly as I can. If someone who loves you, your spouse, your child, your best friend, tells you that you've changed, if they say you don't have the same energy, the same spark, the same interest in things you used to love, please listen to them. Don't brush it off. Don't say, "Oh, I'm just tired." What they're seeing with their own eyes is sometimes more accurate than any lab test or brain scan. Now, does apathy automatically mean dementia? Number, of course, not. Lots of people go through periods of low motivation. Retirement can be a huge adjustment. Burnout is real. Life gets heavy. But if this change came on somewhat suddenly, if it's lasting weeks or months, and if you yourself don't even feel like anything is wrong, that's worth a conversation with your doctor. A simple conversation, two signals, still nothing about memory. And notice the pattern. Both of these get ignored because they look exactly like normal aging. The next one is the same way, but once I say it, you're going to recognize it immediately. Signal number 3, your words. I remember a patient of mine. He was a retired engineer, very sharp guy. He didn't come to see me because he forgot things. He came in and said, "Doc, I don't know how to explain it. My brain just feels slow, like it's gotten dull, like I'm thinking through mud." I said, "Okay, take your time, just tell me more." And as he started talking, something happened. He stopped mid-sentence, he tapped his finger on my exam table, he shook his head, and he said, the word just disappeared. It was right there. Then he kept going, and a few seconds later stopped again. That feeling, don't you? The word is right on the tip of your tongue. You can almost see it, you can almost hear it, but it will not come out. So you start describing it, that thing in the kitchen for chopping the round thing with the handle, and everybody nods. And you laugh and say, just getting old. And most of the time, you're right. An occasional word finding glitch is a completely normal part of an aging brain, not broken, just older, in the same way that you could carry 2 heavy bags of groceries up 3 flights of stairs when you were 20. But at 60, you need to take a break halfway. That's not a disease. That's just life. And this is the part I care about most as a doctor. There is a line, a very specific line. It's not about whether you ever lose a word. It's about whether those moments start to string together. Back to my patient. A few weeks later, his wife came with him and she said something that stopped me cold. She said, "Doctor, he called the microwave the machine that heats up food, and he called the television remote the thing you press to change the channels, not once in a while, every single time. And the scary part, he doesn't even know he's doing it. That, my friend, is the line. If you notice that you can't find a word and it frustrates you, that's usually fine. That's normal. But if the people around you start noticing that your speech is changing, getting slower, flatter, more hesitant, more vague, that's different. That's worth paying attention to. And I'm going to say something here that might make some people uncomfortable. I think our society is sometimes too nice about language changes in older adults. Don't get me wrong, being kind and patient is a beautiful thing. But we say, oh, it's just old age so often and so automatically that we end up brushing past real early warning signs. Kindness without awareness can actually do more harm than good. We miss the window where we could have done something. So let me give you a simple test. This is something we actually use in my clinic. You can pause the video right now and try it. Ready in 1 minute, 60 seconds. I want you to name as many animals as you possibly can. Any animal: cat, dog, elephant, giraffe, penguin, tiger, zebra. Go. Okay, time's up. How many did you get for most healthy adults over age 60? Naming 15 to 20 animals in 1 minute is pretty typical. If you got 12 or more, you can breathe a little easier. If you got stuck around 7 or 8, or if you kept repeating the same ones, cat, dog, don't panic. It doesn't mean you have dementia, but it's something worth mentioning to your doctor. Just remember that line. It's not about ever having the problem. It's about, is this new? Is it getting worse? Is it happening more often? And are other people noticing it? 3 signals. Still nothing about memory. Signal number 4, your walk. Now you might be thinking, can I test any of this myself at home? Can I see these changes without going to a doctor? The answer is yes, especially this next one. You don't need a brain scan. You don't need blood work. You don't need a specialist. You just need a hallway or a room. Let me ask you to imagine something. You're sitting on your couch watching television. You hear footsteps coming down the hallway. You don't even look up, but immediately that's your partner, not your teenage son, not your neighbor. By the sound, the pace, the weight of each step, the rhythm. Doctors call this your motor signature, and just like your fingerprint, it's unique to you. You've probably never thought about this before, but your brain is running dozens of different systems every single time you take a step: balance, muscle strength, timing, spatial awareness, coordination, and it's all automatic. You don't have to think, okay, now left foot, now right foot, now shift weight. It just happens like breathing. But here's the question: what if one day walking became something you actually had to think about? I saw a man in his early 70s. Healthy, no pain. His family just said he seems slower crossing the street. That could be anything: his knees, his back, his hip. So I did a very simple test. I asked him to walk to the end of the hallway and back. He did great, normal pace, good rhythm. Then I asked him to do it again, but this time while he walked, I wanted him to count backwards from 100 by 7s, 193, 86, 79. And he stopped, not because he couldn't do the math. He was a smart guy. But his brain couldn't do 2 things at once anymore. It had to choose walk or think, not both. That's called dual task interference, and here's what it means. Your brain has a certain amount of reserve, a buffer. When that reserve starts to run low, your brain can't multitask the way it used to. It can only handle one thing at a time. Now, here's the part that still amazes me even after all these years. Multiple large, long-term studies, the kind that follow people for 10 or 15 years, have found that this kind of dual task interference can show up 10 to 15 years before a dementia diagnosis. 10 to 15 years, that's not a typo. One of the world's most respected medical journals, The Lancet Neurology, published a major review article that talked about exactly this window. 10 to 15 years before memory problems, your walking pattern under a cognitive load might start to change. Think about what that means. That tiny little hesitation you see today. That slight slowing down when someone asks you a question while you're walking might not be nothing. It might be the very first thread of something a decade from now. You can try this yourself right at home. Next time you walk from your bedroom to your kitchen or down your hallway, just start naming animals out loud. Cat, dog, elephant, tiger. Penguin. If your brain is healthy, your walking rhythm should barely change. You should be able to do both at once without thinking. But if you notice yourself slowing down, if your steps get hesitant, if you have to stop walking to think of the next word, or if you just feel like your brain is working too hard to do both things, just notice that. Don't panic, but notice it. And especially if your partner or your adult child says to you, you're walking differently than you used to before you even noticed it yourself, pay attention to that. That matters. 4 signals. Still nothing about memory. Signal number 5, your sleep. If you've made it all the way to this point in the video, thank you, seriously. It tells me you're taking this seriously, whether you're watching for yourself or for someone you love. That matters. So if you don't mind, I have a small ask. If this video is helping you, would you mind giving it a thumbs up? Not for me, not for some algorithm, but so that more people who need to see this, people who might be worried, people who might be confused, can actually find it. All right, here we go. Signal number 5. I almost didn't include this one. If I'm being honest with you, because it sounds almost silly, like a joke, but as a doctor, I have to tell you the truth. And the truth is, this 5th signal might be the most powerful early warning we have. Bar none, nothing else comes close. And here's the wild part. Almost nobody knows about it. Let me start by explaining how normal sleep works. Every single night, you go through different stages of sleep. One of those stages is called REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. That's the stage where you dream. Even if you don't remember your dreams in the morning, you have them. And during REM sleep, something very clever happens inside your brain. Your brain basically turns off your muscles. It paralyzes you on purpose, not completely, but enough that you don't physically act out your dreams. Think about it. If you're dreaming about running a race, you don't want to actually kick your legs and run across your bedroom. If you're dreaming about fighting, you don't want to actually punch your pillow or worse, the person sleeping next to you. So your brain has a built-in safety switch. It disconnects your muscles during dreaming. It's actually a beautiful, brilliant design. But for some people, that switch breaks. It doesn't work the way it should. So what happens? They dream about running and their legs kick. They dream about swimming and their arms move. They dream about yelling and they actually scream out loud. They dream about fighting and they throw a punch. And then they wake up in the morning completely confused. What, I slept fine. I don't remember anything. Meanwhile, the person sleeping next to them hasn't had a good night's sleep in weeks, months. They've been kicked, hit, pushed, yelled at, all while their partner was asleep and completely unaware. This has a medical name. It's called REM sleep behavior disorder. And for a long time, doctors thought it was just a weird sleep problem, but we now know it is so much more than that. Multiple large international long-term studies have found something stunning. REM sleep behavior disorder is one of the most reliable early markers of a type of dementia called Lewy body dementia. In fact, it can show up 5, 10, even 15 years before any memory problems or cognitive changes appear. 15 years. There was a very large US study called the Sleep Heart Health Study. It followed more than 6,000 people over many years. And they found the same thing. People with REM sleep behavior disorder had a dramatically higher risk of developing a neurodegenerative disease later in life compared to people without it. So let me say this as clearly as I can. If the person who sleeps next to you says, hey, you've been kicking me at night, or you yelled out in your sleep again, or you punched the headboard last night, or especially you fell out of bed, please don't laugh it off. Don't say, oh, I was just having a bad dream. Mention it to your doctor. That's not just a sleep problem. That's your brain trying to send you a message through your sleep years before anything else shows up. 5 signals: your nose, your spark, your words, your walk, your sleep. Not one of them is I lost my keys. Not one is I forgot my neighbor's name. Every single one of them shows up before memory problems, sometimes way, way before. Let's pull this all together. So let's take a breath together and just review the 5 signals we talked about today. Your sense of smell getting dull, especially the ability to name what you're smelling, a loss of drive or interest, apathy that other people notice before you do. Language changes, not just occasional word finding, but a pattern that others see. Walking changes, especially when you try to do 2 things at once and acting out your dreams during sleep, moving, kicking, yelling. None of these alone means you have dementia. Please hear me on that. Most of the time, these are nothing. Smell changes are common. Word finding happens. Walking slows down with age. Everybody has a bad night of sleep now and then, and this is the part I need you to remember. If you notice more than one of these, if they started recently, if they seem to be getting worse, and especially if the people who know you best have said more than once, you seem different, then please go see your doctor, not next month, not at your next annual physical 6 months from now. Soon, because here's the truth I want to leave you with. Catching these signals early is not about getting bad news. It's actually the opposite. It means you still have choices. You can still decide how to treat. You can still plan your life. You can still spend time with the people you love, doing the things that matter to you. You can still make your voice heard about your own care. Those choices only exist in the early window. Once memory really starts to go, once the hallway and the manager's office are too damaged, that precious window may close forever. So the 15 or 20 minutes you spent here today, that wasn't a waste, that was real. Whether you end up finding out there's nothing to worry about or something to act on, you chose not to look away. You chose not to say, it's just old age. And that kind of attention, that kind of love, that is the best gift you can give yourself or someone you care about. One more practical thing before we close. If today's video left you feeling a little uneasy, not terrified, but just a little uncomfortable, and you're not sure whether to call your doctor, here's one simple thing you can do starting tonight. Get a small notebook or open the Notes app on your phone and start writing things down with dates, for example, March 15th. Mom called the microwave the hot box again, March 20th. Dad hasn't gone for his morning walk in 3 days. Didn't even mention the birds. April 2nd, I noticed he seemed slower crossing the street. Different from last month. Why does this matter? Because when you finally walk into my exam room or your family doctor's exam room, the most valuable thing you can bring isn't your worry. It's not your internet search history. It's your observations, real dated, specific examples of what you've seen with your own eyes. Those little details help us make a faster, clearer, more accurate judgment. Your eyes see things that no brain scan can show. That notebook, it's more powerful than you think. Final words. If you have older adults in your life, parents, grandparents, neighbors, friends, would you consider sharing this video with them, not with a scary message like, hey, something's wrong with you, just a simple, hey, I watched this video and thought of you. It's interesting. You might find it helpful. Sometimes what you share isn't just a link. It's a way of saying, I'm thinking about you. I care about you. And if you want to learn more about how to tell the difference between normal aging and early dementia, the kind of things we check for in the clinic every day, I have another video right here that I think you'll find really useful. I'll put it on screen. Thank you truly for staying with me until the very end. The fact that you made it this far tells me that you take your health seriously or someone else's health seriously. And in my book, that's everything. Take care of yourself and take care of the people you love. If you're dealing with any health concerns, anything at all, please schedule a visit with your primary care doctor. I'm here to help you understand the science, but I can never replace professional medical advice from someone who knows you and your history. Take care.